Well, the AD for Vanderbilt, David Williams, said on Friday that Kevin Stallings' treatment of Wade Baldwin, and he will reprimand him internally. You remember Stallings berated Baldwin for his poor sportsmanlike conduct, but it was the actual coach's conduct that had everyone asking this question. What is wrong with Coach Stallings? Obviously, he's not going to be suspended. Again, that's from the AD of Vanderbilt. But, Kate, do you think he should be?
I think one game, absolutely. And I'm not saying you can't use this kind of language in sports, because obviously I've played sports and I know that it happens. I'm saying you can't use it in public. All right, so Stallings made a conscious decision to pull Baldwin out of the lineup in front of TV cameras. That's a risk-reward. Right? The reward is that he's going to do it in an impactful, eloquent way, and he's going to be seen as a coach who enforces good sportsmanship. Now, the risk is that he's going to cross over and act outrageous and do what he did. All right, so when you make that decision in that moment in such a public way, and you do not wait until you go back to the locker room, which is low risk, you go back, you pull him aside, you say, what were you doing? You know, you figure it out with him. You made the decision to make this public. All right, in that moment. So in that moment, when you cross the line, you use language like that, where we have to bleep it out when we're talking about it, there's got to be repercussions. So absolutely, one game. I mean, this is not a huge deal, but I think you've got to send a message. One game, make him sit, fine him for the game, and move on.
You sin undercuts his authority.
Yes, yes, it does.
You suspend
completely undercuts his authority.
And I'm not either way. I'm just saying, once you tell a coach he can't reprimand someone in public, you're saying that you're in trouble for being the authority figure that
you're not saying you can't reprimand someone in public. You're saying you have got to use better language in public. There has to be a repercussion for that. In no way, if that happened again, and if a player crossed the line, they wanted to reprimand him in public, if you do it in a smart, tactful way, you're fine. And this is not like it's a fine line here. All right? You can reprimand a player in public without saying, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
You can do that.
I've heard that before, yeah.
So this is not undermining his authority. He has a wide patch he can walk in which to reprimand his players. He just did not need to take that tact.
I was actually glad we got to talk about this, because I saw it unfolding last week and it was driving me nuts. Just because of the sort of the way that we've gone when we talk about coaches, and that more, you know, and the use we brought up in public, that is really skewed now. What is public versus what is private? Yeah. Because as we've seen, there are microphones everywhere. Whereas a coach before might have said, hey, when I'm on the court and, you know, the fans are over there and I'm right with my player, that could be seen as private. Now, I know what you're saying is public, but now there are players with cell phones that are recording coaches in locker rooms and meeting rooms behind closed doors. So coaches really have to take every area as public. That should be their first thought. So anything they do. Now, what drives me nuts is that anyone would see this and see a problem with everything but the I'm going to kill you. And I have a problem with that in some respects.
How do you tease that out?
Because I think it was totally out of, like, I don't think he meant it. Like, I think it was, like, we talked about having plausible deniability with James Harden. I think Coach Stallings has plausible deniability that he's not really going to kill his player. I think coaches are completely, I hope so anyway. I think coaches have been told, like, if you suspend him, what happens the next time he raises his voice to a player and maybe drops some F-bombs or whatever he does, and the player says, you can't do that to me? What does he do then? He has no course of action to take then. Then he's trapped. The coach is trapped saying, he's right. I can't talk to my players in a certain way because I've been suspended. At some point, we have got to, you know, trust coaches to some extent, but we've also got to let players be coached hard. And I think there's a fine line between, you know, some coaches who physically abuse and verbally abuse their players, as some coaches who coach hard and get in their face and yell at them, which I don't have a problem with. I think some very valuable lessons can be taught in those situations.
There was a big box of wrong everywhere. Not just Kevin Stallings with the language that he used going across the line, but Wade Baldwin, according to what I read, was told by Kevin Stallings, because there was a history with the first game where Josh Richardson of Tennessee basically called Vanderbilt that they got punked and they were out tough, and Wade Baldwin said, you know what? You can't talk about our team like that. That's disrespectful. You're supposed to have more respect for your opponent. This is a freshman saying this in Wade Baldwin. So the minute that he went out there, anything he was going to do was going to be taken the other way, not whatever his intent was. You can say, well, he wasn't clapping in the direction of the player. He was near the Tennessee bench. He was near the Tennessee player. How did he think that was going to have, what kind of reaction did he was going to get? If Wade Baldwin had did what his coach told him to, don't go out there and engage in these kind of sophomoric antics, then we don't have this discussion about Kevin Stallings, and we don't have to worry about, is he going to kill him, is he not going to kill him, or anything like that. We're not having this kind of forum thinking, oh my God, this guy should be suspended, when we know he's not going to choke his player out if his player does something wrong. So there was a big box of wrong there from everybody. You can look at the Tennessee video coordinator. He's the one that snitched on Wade Baldwin. He goes to Kevin Stallings and he says, "You got over there and said that," and all the other foolishness. If he was minding his business, say, you know what, our guy started this in Josh Richardson with what he said after the game. If he had minded his business and not pointed people out, then we're not having it. So there was wrong everywhere. I'm not condoning what Kevin Stallings said. I don't think you can drop those kind of bombs or threaten to kill a player, especially Danny's point, where there are cameras and there are microphones all around. But believe me, anybody's been to a basketball game, we've heard a lot worse. They talk like that all the time. If people heard the kind of language that the top college basketball coaches use, I'm telling you, your face would turn blue at the minute of that. And I don't have a problem with it either. But here's the deal. It comes to context. Kevin Stallings owned up to it immediately because he even said right after that, you know what? I was wrong. I should have known better. I'm in a leadership position. Now, if someone had to tell him to say something like that, then you know what, if someone needed to make you recognize that, then you know your butt should be gone for one game. But he knew exactly what he did was wrong. But there was so much going on to say that he's the one that's supposed to take the focus of all the wrong when other people are doing that. That's why I think he should be suspended for one game.
So do you think Coach Stallings never cusses out a player again?
Of course he's going to cuss out a player again.
No, he
should definitely say where I went wrong was when I said I should have.
And that's what he did. He said, I went wrong by doing that, not only taking my player out of that, but then berating my player in that standpoint. I'm not trying to condone it. Not making excuses for it, but that's what he said. So for somebody to say, oh, he needs to be, someone said he should be fired after that. I said, really?
Yes.
That's where we're going with this now? Really?
Okay, but I disagree with the part where it's a fine line between a coaching disciplined and tough and saying something like what Stallings said.
Right. So if he wouldn't have said that, if he wouldn't have said, I'm going to kill you.
That was the thing. Yeah, that was the thing that I had the problem with.
But a lot of people who were in outrage were saying he shouldn't have been using the F word. He shouldn't have, just basically been chewing him out. Is basically what the biggest. That was what I had the biggest problem with. Because I never would sit here and say, yeah, he can say that to his players. I'm going to kill you.
Right.
But where a lot of the outrage was with the whole tirade put together, and people were like, they can't treat their players like that. And I don't have a problem with the way he coached his players and talked to them, aside from saying,
I don't have a problem with him pulling him out of line and yelling at him. And after, I don't have a problem with that. But I think that language does cross a line. And we're all agreeing it does cross a line.
Right.
So I think it's mostly just like, does he deserve a one game or does he not? Or not? No.
You don't think so? Everyone says no. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, Coach Stallings not suspended. Although my friend Kate says, you're lucky she's not in charge of it.
That's right.
Let's move on to a new topic. Ndamukong Suh. Right before we came on air, obviously, we were talking about this. Ndamukong Suh will not get the franchise tag, which means that the Lions have until next Tuesday to actually work out a deal with him to be long-term. He's up for the next highest bidder. Where do you see Ndamukong Suh, Danny?
I think he'll be back with Detroit. I think they'll figure out a way to try to get this done. I mean, the franchise tag made 0 cents. I think it brought his salary up to $26 million. He's going to get paid. I mean, it's very clear. But you just don't see guys that make that type of an impact on the interior of the defensive line just sitting around. I mean, every team would love to have him. The opposite of DeMarco Murray, we're talking about him. This is one where Suh could drive up the price even higher. Sure. So it'll be interesting to see if Detroit can get it done in the next week, before he can go hit that open market. Sure. Because if he does, it'll be off the charts.
I mean, the money he was going to make on that franchise tag is not what he's going to be getting in the open market. So, of course, if Detroit comes back, he was already making, what, $21 million?
Yeah.
And they're not going to let him go.
Right.
Okay, because that team, that city, that defense, that mentality, he is the face of it. So, of course, they're going to pay him $21 million. He seems like he likes playing in Detroit as well. So, I see him coming back in the same range that he was making now. Because no other team's going to pay him. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like somebody would.
Significant more.
Right. To your point, Kate and Danny, he's coming back to Detroit because I know there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be in play. I mentioned Jacksonville, $67 million in cap space. Oakland, they have $53 million in cap space.
I can see making a really strong push.
I can see Oakland making he would fit in perfectly with that team because I like their quarterback in Derek Carr. Can you imagine Ndamukong Suh up the middle and Khalil Mack on the outside, who was really good as a rookie outside linebacker / defensive defensive end coverage guy. Someone's going to take a run at him. But if I'm Detroit, if he gets into the building, hey guys, to say hi, I'm putting his hand behind his back, I'm blindfolding him, I'm taking him somewhere else and say, how much is it going to take to sign this guy? I'm with you guys. There's no way I'm letting him leave Detroit, and I think the Lions will re-sign him.
All right. So, and Dominican Sue, according to, we all think he's staying in Detroit.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Deadline today, right?
Yeah, so which we can
Yeah.
discuss tomorrow. I will say this. I really appreciate you all being here and filling in for Skip and Stephen A. And it's going to be some fun having you guys here for the rest of the week. We got Kate Fagan. She's with ESPNW.
Absolutely.
Great job as usual. Highly impressed by you. Danny Cannell.
He's all right.
So I'll be there tomorrow, and then I'm off vacation. Too.
Okay, good. But we appreciate you filling in.
Thank you.
And then you, my friend.
Yes, she called me her friend, so I'm glad for that.
I'm just calling him the face of the nation.
He is the face of the nation.
That's it.
At this point, we're going to be the shame of the nation if this keeps up with everybody.
Face of the nation, shame of the nation, Freddie Coleman. You've been great. We always appreciate you, and we'll have you for a couple of days, will we not?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, yes. But we'll have you for a couple of days.
Coming up on the show, too, this week we have a lot of special guests. Mayo Cotto will be here, and some other special guests. Byron Maxwell will hang out with us, so that'll be good for us. Cheryl Sandberg. So we'll have a lot of people. It'll be a good time. We will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. All right, back. Bye-bye.